Am I the only one who likes to take established musical genres and just kind of fuck them up a little bit? Like in the case of my latest release song, Sunrise and Cry, which you can and should go check out anywhere you listen to your music at, I knew I wanted to do a solo section that was a little bit more bluesy and rock inspired, rather than the progressive metal rock thing that you're probably used to out of me already. And in this case it served the song pretty well, because Sunrise and Cry is a little bit of a more Greg Koch inspired, traditional blues, rock, soul sort of a song. I've done some other videos about it, which you can go check out. And when I was trying to figure out what to do with that section of the song, I just immediately gravitated towards those traditional rock, Henriques, bluesy chords like an E or an E7, G, A, I'm going to go back to E, right? But that sounded a little bit too traditional to me, and I also wanted to call back to some of the other chords and vibes of the song. So there's a section in the song where we go to C and D, or perhaps C and B7, and we do this closure riff. And since all of those call back to E, I thought why not just mess all of those up? And while it sounded cool, it wasn't exactly the vibe that I was looking for. In some ways, it was too faithful to the blues rock tradition. And like I mentioned before, because this song was influenced by Greg Koch, and he does that blues rock traditional thing, but he also adds some outside flavors to it and jazzy chords. Because all these chords are major chords, and it is part of the bluesy, jazzy rock tradition to make them 7th chords, I thought maybe we could add some tritone substitutions to those 7th chords, and add a little bit of that more outside sound. And if you don't know what a tritone substitution is, if you take a G7 chord, and you take the 5th, that D out, you end up with just the root, the 7th, and the 3rd. Now that is a 7th chord that is pretty similar to a C sharp or a D flat 7th chord. These two notes are the same between one chord with one root and the other chord with another root. Those notes end up switching up their interval. In the case of the G7, the F is the 7th of G, and the B is the 3rd of G. In the case of that C sharp, that F, which even though it isn't really an F, but we'll just keep going with it, that F is the 3rd instead of the 7th, and that B is the 7th instead of being the 3rd. They are completely different chords, but because they are so similar, you can often substitute one for the other and give your song a little bit of extra spice, or at least a different vibe. And while working on those 7th chords, I realized that instead of doing a chord and then doing its tritone sub, which sounds a little bit too outsidey and jazzy for me in the case of this song, I decided to use those tritone subs to predict the chord that would be coming after. We're starting in E, and we're moving to G. So before we play the G, we're playing a C sharp 7 with the sharp 9, because, you know, it has that old school rock and bluesy Henriques vibe to it. The same thing on the A here. We move from A to C. And if we do the tritone sub, C7, we get that F sharp 7. So we go from A to that F sharp 7, sharp 9. And we're also adding the 11th to it. I'm actually using the side knuckle of my index finger to add that note there. And we finalize it. And I wanted to do a B7 chord, tritone substitution to an F7 chord, and resolve back to E. But just because of how fast the song is and how these chord shapes line up, it's kind of tricky. So I ended up only doing B7 and then having the low F as a transition note. And if I'm guessing this right, there's probably only two camps where you can actually really end up in. One, you either think it sounds super cool, or two, you think this is a barbaric disgrace to the genre. And I can see both sides of the argument on this metaphorical argument coin, but I also think it sounds super cool. In fact, in the context of the song, it sounds like this. Is this sort of genre manipulation thing something that you do often? Let me know. While you're at it, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on all the notifications, follow and stay tuned for more, because I'm releasing new songs every week and I'm releasing new videos every day, twice a day. If you enjoyed this one, I'm sure you'll like the other ones too. And hey, perhaps even share them with a friend who might also enjoy them. In case it wasn't obvious already, go check out my latest released song, Sunrise and Cry, anywhere you listen to your music at. And thank you so much for all the support in these videos and songs. It really means a lot and it really makes a difference. And I can only thank you so much. So all I can say is I hope to see you in another video, but until then, cheers!